So this is what the Tomorrowverse has been building to. Can't say I'm too enthused to see part 2 and 3. So, we now have Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 1, because everything's a Part 1 nowadays, because everything has to set up for a sequel. At least with ones like this, and Justice League and RWBY, and yes, I have seen Part 2 of that now, even though I didn't review it, because I saw it really late. At least they advertise that it's Part 1. The same thing couldn't be said for Dune. Because, if you'll recall, I saw that movie very early. I saw it at a pre-screening, and I remember hearing a couple of what the fucks when the Part 1 showed up in the theater, because it was never advertised as Part 1. I knew that because I keep up with movie news and everything, but the general audience did not. But that's a completely different issue. So, but is the Part 1 of Crisis on Infinite Earths any good? Well, if you've seen my other reviews of the Tomorrowverse movies, in which I've reviewed Green Lantern Beware My Power, Legion of Superheroes, and Justice League Warworld, you know I'm not a huge fan of these movies. I haven't seen any of the other ones, but the ones I have seen I wasn't particularly impressed with. And this one was no exception. There were some problems right off the bat, like, of course, they race-swapped Iris West, just like every other shitty adaptation of this character. I don't know why, because in the Flashpoint Paradox, she looked comic accurate. I know this is technically a reboot of that universe, but the problem still stands. And then there's just some odd decisions here, like, okay, so the character of Harbinger is the one who brings all the heroes together. And in the comics, it's Lila Michaels, and here, it's Kara Zor-El. Why? Even the CW network got that right. Oh, if I'm going to talk about, speaking of that, if I'm going to talk about this, I should briefly talk about the CW version of it, because surprisingly enough, it's pretty comic accurate. Sort of. They got the backstory right, like, they got all of it right, where the reason that this entire thing started is because the guy who becomes the Monitor tried to look back to the dawn of time. Pariah was the one who basically set Anti-Monitor loose, and Harbinger brings these heroes together from different universes to help fight back against the antimatter wave. So, to that point, and to the point of Anti-Monitor taking over Harbinger and killing the Monitor, are actually pretty comic accurate. Now, that series obviously took a lot of liberties with the source material, which is fine. I don't want to see a one-to-one adaptation of fucking anything. But I do appreciate that that show at least tried to stay true to the comics, while also doing its own thing. I don't think it was very good, because like I said, just because you're close to the source material doesn't make it good. Hunger Games Mockingjay was incredibly close to the source material, and those movies were ass. And then you have adaptations that I like that are completely different, that I've talked about many times. Percy Jackson, Maze Runner, those are great films that took a lot of liberties with the source material. This movie tried to go in between. It has some things that are faithful to the comics, but then had shit like that. Like I said, why is Kara Harbinger? And this wouldn't be that big of a deal if it had been even remotely set up in Legion of Superheroes. But was it? Well, obviously not. And the entire plot of this movie feels like this feels like a prologue. This feels like this could have been a 20-minute prologue. Cause fuck's sake, basically this was the prologue in the CW version, where you see a bunch of universes being destroyed by the antimatter wave, and it was being set up ahead of time. Like, Crisis had been being set up in every show, or at least most of them, for that entire season building up to that crossover. This universe, they set it up very briefly at the end of Justice League Warworld, and that's it. Honestly, there's only one reference to Justice League Warworld, and it's at the very end, where Barry goes back in time to do something. I don't even really remember what he was doing. But either way, it doesn't really connect to the other movies, because, hell, the Green Lantern Beware My Power movie, like with Jon Stewart and everything, that's nowhere to be found. Jon Stewart's nowhere to be found. There is a Jon Stewart Green Lantern, but it's an entirely different character. And then there's Amazo, who Barry works with to try to stop the antimatter wave, which is alright, him using basically creating a cosmic treadmill to stop the antimatter wave. Problem is, they fight him and the Justice League, in a different universe, they form the Justice League to fight Amazo, and this fight goes on for fucking ever. I swear to God, it took up 20 minutes of the movie's runtime when you could have condensed this down to to maybe a fourth of that time, actually. Maybe you could have made this just a few-minute fight. I get you wanted to show how strong Amazo was, but you didn't really need to, considering he wasn't even a villain after the fight. And that is the main problem with this movie, is that, like I said, the Harbinger stuff, where she's recruiting heroes, should have been the intro, or at least the second scene of the movie. Like, you have Barry jumping from universe to universe, or sometimes being pushed there by the Monitor, sometimes going himself. That stuff's never really explained. Like, is it actually the same Barry in each universe, or are we seeing a bunch of different Barry Allens? Because if it is the same Barry Allen jumping from universe to universe, where did that universe's Barry Allen go? Or is there only one Barry Allen in the multiverse, which doesn't make any sense at all if that is the case. I will say this did have one nice scene where we see Bruce showing up to Barry's house with Dick, who had recently lost his parents, and asking Barry to take him to the Central City Orphanage because Bruce is obviously not equipped to raise a child. And then later on, when that same Batman shows up in the ship, being brought there by Harbinger, he gets to meet an adult Robin, and we get to see Dick basically tell Bruce what happened, and he basically goes, "That sounds very irresponsible of him training this kid to become a sidekick." That was a pretty funny scene. We also get Huntress in this, who in that same universe was Bruce and Selena Kyle's daughter. That was fine, I guess. It didn't really amount to much, but I would have preferred it if they just kept Dick there, or maybe if you had to throw someone else in, maybe it'd be Damian Wayne instead of Huntress. But whatever, it's fine, I guess. But again, the main problem with this movie is that it accomplishes fucking nothing. The majority of this movie could have been wrapped up in maybe 20 minutes. You could have done virtually the entire movie in about 20 minutes. Maybe even less. You could have made this a montage where you start off with Barry jumping from universes, or you don't even need him jumping universes. Have the Monitor show up to him and tell him what's going on. Then we see like a short montage of these universes being destroyed. 'Cause I don't know why we had to... And by the way, we see Barry jumping from universe to universe. We see, like, 4 universes. And one of them we spend a lot of time on is the one with the Crime Syndicate, where it's Ultraman, Superwoman, Owlman, Power Ring, I think was the guy. And I want to say there was one more. Yeah, but we spend a lot of time with these assholes. Oh, and Johnny Quick. And by the way, I was able to figure, even though he looks not really much like the comic, I was able to figure out that was Johnny Quick as soon as he showed up on screen. I knew it wasn't a Flash, it was Johnny Quick. But either way, we spend a lot of time with these douchebags for no reason. We have no reason to care that these people are going to die because they're villains. Why should we care? And I did like one moment when the antimatter wave's starting to destroy the city, where a building is like falling over and Ultraman catches the building. At first I was like, oh come on, really? We're seeing these villains save people? Like, I get it's a desperate situation here, but why would they be saving these people if they don't care about them? But I like that he just pushes it over the other way because it was going to fall on their tower, so he just pushes the building the other way. That was kind of funny. That was a little interesting. But then they all die trying to stop the antimatter wave, which is fine, but their plan is to just punch it and throw shit at it until it stops. And I get that Owlman basically said that it's a last-ditch effort. It's like, I don't remember exactly what he said. But either way, this is a stupid fucking plan. Think of an actual plan before doing anything. Or if you're going to, don't just fly up to the stupid thing and try to punch it when it's going through everything. And also, this movie tries damn hard to give us the Barry-Iris relationship when I don't think we saw Iris in a single other movie. I mean, again, I didn't see the World War II one that had the Flash in it, where Barry goes to an alternate universe with the Justice Society. But I'm pretty sure we didn't see Iris a single time, so I don't know why they're trying so hard in this movie to make us give a shit about Iris West. Because I've never given a shit about Iris West. I liked her in Flashpoint Paradox, but I didn't like her in the TV show. I definitely didn't like her in the movie, and I don't like her here. And then there's the voice acting. The voice acting is pretty good. Matt Bomer is a pretty good Flash. He does surprisingly well in this role. Jensen Ackles is a pretty good Batman. His Batman voice was kind of throwing me off a little bit, but I guess I'm just so used to Kevin Conroy that it just took me a bit to get used to him. Darren Criss is Superman, and I mentioned this in the other movies, but it's weird that they chose him for Superman, but he does fine, I guess. There's nothing wrong with his performance. Alexander Daddario has about 3 lines as Lois Lane. I wish she'd been in the movie more, because I like Daddario. Meg Donnelly is, of course, back as Supergirl, and I like her in this role. Apparently, she screen tested for live-action Supergirl in the DCU, and I'd be totally okay with that. She does pretty well in this role, and she looks the part, which is more than I said for Sasha Calle, so there's that, I guess. And I can't remember everybody else in this movie, but everybody does their job perfectly fine. But that is the problem. But again, the problem with this movie is that it feels pointless. This is a part 1 to a 3-part movie when this could have been a 20-minute prologue. This could have been, hell, this could have been a fucking short film, or, could have just been the beginning of one longer movie. I'm betting that instead of having 3 hour-and-a-half-long movies, you could cut this down to, it'd be a very long movie. But if you're going to make Crisis on Infinite Earths, you better be ready to make it a long movie instead of having to shove it into 3 parts. And I'm assuming they were mandated 3 parts. They probably could have told this in 2, but they were mandated 3, so they had to fuck around with the first one for a while before getting anything done. And again, some of the scenes are nice, and it's not like this movie was an abhorrent trash fire like Legion of Superheroes, but I just didn't give a shit because nothing was accomplished until the last, 15 minutes of the movie. So yeah, I hope parts 2 and 3 are better because I don't want to sit through 2 more boring hour-and-a-half movies of fucking nothing. I'm going to give Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths a D+ because I'm feeling a bit generous. And again, this wasn't absolutely horrible, but it was just a waste of time. So yeah, that's all I got for Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 1, and I'll see you next time. Bye.